Let me explain. You have an analysis that there is this clash of civilization and barbarism, mainly Islamic barbarism, as is outlined. Then you have action based on that analysis, the need for preemptive strikes. This, after all, was the basis for the US attack on Iraq, as they told their own public with alleged weapons of mass destruction, and the arguments being used against Iran right now. They pose a threat to us, so we better eliminate that threat. And you see consequences of such actions in the form of a violent backlash, whether in the form of resistance abroad or indeed terrorist atrocities at home. And so finally you have your conclusion with this neat analysis. When reprisal events like 7/7 take place, people like Daniel turn around and say, see, I told you so. I told you they hate us. And then they go on to explain that Muslims are violent towards the West because they hate the Western way of life. And there's something in Islamic culture that breeds such violence. There is this ideology that's formed within the faith itself. And in this way, the argument of the Islamic threat becomes justified. But I tell you what, I think this is a dishonest argument. The neocons present a problem whose roots are actually political in nature as a problem of culture and faith. The clash theory deliberately distracts from horrific realities. Because the truth is that as a result of Western foreign policy, not just in recent times, but over many, many decades, hundreds of thousands of people in the Middle East have been killed. Millions have had their lives destroyed. But their suffering is not acknowledged. Their deaths are not even officially counted. Indeed, their humanity is dismissed with terms like collateral damage. And there are certainly no commemorations or minute silences for these people. The neocons talk about Islamic terrorism, but make no mention of the role of Western state terrorism in being a catalyst for the violence that ensues. But I tell you what, the irony is that part of the preemptive rationale post 9/11 was supposed to eliminate supposed Islamic terrorist threat, but has in actuality enlarged one. And my interest, as I'm sure as Daniel Pipe's interest is, how do we really reduce the risks that all of us face? I'm not here to apologise or to make appeasement arguments for Islamic terrorism. My interest as a British person, as a woman, as a mom, is to make sure that we all live in a secure and safe world. But what I would argue is that huge wells of despair and hatred have been created in parts of the world where people previously had no quarrel with the West. The truth is that the grim brutality on the ground, as relayed via television and the internet, has a far more radicalising influence than any amount of religious sermons. So I find the premise of Daniel's argument dishonest because of the way it evades completely the history and consequences of Western intervention in the Middle East. I also find it dishonest because this talk of the clash is really an ideological cover designed to mask US plans to remap the Middle East in its own interest and tighten its control over the region. It is nothing more than a weapon of mass destruction for public consumption. However, the world does face some very real threats. Global warming, third world debt, poverty and disease. And the impact of these threats have actually been increased due to the influence of neocon policies. Ironically, the people who shout the loudest about the threat to civilization from Islamists are exactly the same people who, for me, pose the biggest threat to civilization. Whether the issue is resisting the Kyoto Agreement to curb climate change, or institutionalising third world debt and poverty, or a desperation to send other people's children to wage war, you will see the most vocal advocates being neocons like Daniel Pipes. And what strikes me is when you look at the elites both in the West and in the East, implement these policies, whether they're based in Washington or London, or whether they're based in Riyadh or Cairo, is that when it comes to putting profits first and humanity second, they are more than capable of overcoming any cultural differences they may have between themselves. So I do not accept that the biggest divide in the world today is between Islamists and the rest. I believe it's between those who advocate the policies of war and neoliberalism and those, the bulk of humanity, who want to live in a world based on peace and social justice. I believe that the vast majority of people who read reports that the Iraq war could cost more than $2 trillion feel like I feel. Imagine if this money was used to address the scandal that 50,000 children die every day now of preventable poverty in the third world. The challenge for this century is to build what the Brazilian priest Frei Beto calls a civilization of solidarity. I think London has established an important milestone in that project. It's a remarkable fact, and one that I'm extremely proud of as a British citizen, that the largest demonstration that this country has ever seen in its 2,000-year history was the one on February the 15th, 2003, when over 1 million people, the majority of whom were non-Muslim, took to the streets of London to march in solidarity with the Iraqi people, with whom they shared neither race, faith, colour or culture. For me, it is this kind of shared humanity that hope for the future lies. Thank you.